Pull over. Now. I gasped, my hand flying to my chest as I faked a sharp intake of breath. I think I'm having a heart attack. My husband George shot me a terrified look, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, as he wrestled our SUV onto the gravel shoulder of the highway. Cars blurred past their roar, a distant hum against the frantic pounding in my ears. We were less than an hour from the Canadian border, the final stretch of a journey that was supposed to heal our fractured family. But every instinct honed over 68 years of life was screaming that we were driving into a catastrophe. "Eleanor, what is it? Talk to me," George pleaded, his voice trembling as he fumbled for his phone to dial 911. "No, don't," I whispered, my eyes locked on the sleek black duffel bag sitting on the back seat. "I'm not having a heart attack, but something is terribly, terribly wrong." Just minutes before, my son Daniel had called from his car behind us. His voice had a strained artificial brightness that didn't sit right. "Mom, you know I'd do anything for you, right?" he'd said, a nervous laugh crackling through the speaker. "Just be safe crossing the border. They're thorough." It wasn't an "I love you." It was a farewell. It was the sound of a man pushing his own mother off a cliff and wishing her a soft landing. For 5 years, George and I had been that soft landing. Ever since Daniel lost his management position, we had been their safety net. It started with groceries, then car payments, then their rent. It ended with us selling the 4-bedroom house where we'd raised our children, downsizing to a small condo, to liquidate the equity we needed to keep their lives afloat. Every check I wrote, every bill I paid was an act of love. But I was beginning to understand that to them, my love had become an obligation, and my sacrifice was simply their solution. This trip, this bag, this phone call, it was the final devastating withdrawal from a bank account they had long since emptied. The first crack in my 5-year-long foundation of generosity had appeared 2 months earlier. It arrived in the form of a phone call from Chloe, my daughter-in-law, her voice thick with manufactured drama. "Eleanor, we have a serious problem with Leo," she'd said, referring to my 8-year-old grandson. "He's being horribly bullied at school. The teachers do nothing and he comes home in tears every single day." Daniel got on the extension, his tone grave. "There's an incredible private academy, Mom. Small classes, zero tolerance for bullying. It would change his life." My heart ached at the thought of Leo suffering. I was ready to say yes to write whatever check was required until they named the price $20,000 for the first year alone. A wave of unease washed over me. It wasn't just the amount, it was the story. The last time I'd babysat Leo, just a week prior, he'd left his school tablet behind. While waiting for them to pick it up, I'd idly scrolled through his class project folder. It was filled with recent photos and short video clips, Leo laughing as he won a 3-legged race with a friend Leo, in the center of a group of boys building a volcano model, Leo reading a story aloud to a captivated circle of classmates. There was no hint of a lonely, tormented child. He looked happy, popular even. "Let me think about it," I told them, my voice calmer than I felt. "That's a significant amount. Perhaps we should meet with his teacher first." The silence on the other end was immediate and glacial. "So that's a no," Chloe said, her voice dripping with ice. Before I could explain, she'd hung up. The retaliation was swift and brutal. My weekly babysitting sessions were canceled due to sudden scheduling conflicts. My calls to speak with Leo were cut short by Chloe, who'd claim it was not a good time. The final twist of the knife came a week later when my friend Carol called. "Eleanor, is everything all right?" I saw Chloe's post on Facebook. She had posted a public message for all our mutual friends and family to see. So heartbreaking when you realize some people would rather protect their bank account than their own grandson's happiness. The humiliation was a hot flush on my cheeks. For saying, "let's think," I was being painted as a monster. They weren't just punishing me, they were isolating me, ensuring that when they came back with their next proposal, I'd be too lonely and guilt-ridden to refuse. And it worked. 2 months later, when my phone rang and Daniel's name flashed on the screen, My heart leaped with a desperate, foolish hope. His voice was warm, dripping with a manufactured cheerfulness that I chose to interpret as genuine remorse. "Hey, Mom, we've missed you guys," he began. "Chloe and we've been talking. We were so stressed out and we handled things badly. We want to make it up to you." The relief that washed over me was so profound it almost brought me to tears. He explained that Chloe's cousin had offered them the use of a beautiful lakeside cabin in Quebec for a long weekend. A free family vacation. A chance to reconnect. It was everything I had been praying for. The idea of holding my grandson again, of seeing him smile, was enough to make me forget the months of calculated cruelty. "Of course," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "We'd love to." The night before we were set to leave, they explained the final detail. "We'll have to take 2 cars," Daniel said over the phone. "Our trunk lock is busted and it won't stay latched properly. We can't risk putting valuables in there." A few hours later, Chloe arrived at our condo to drop off a single black duffel bag. "It's just some of Leo's things and some snacks," she said with a smile so sweet it could have caused cavities. "Would you mind taking it in your SUV since your trunk is secure?" She handed it to me, and the weight of it was surprising far heavier than a few sets of pajamas and some bags of chips. As I set it down in our hallway, I caught a faint, sharp odor. It was a sterile chemical smell, almost like an industrial cleaner, that seemed strangely out of place. But I pushed the thought away, dismissing it as my overactive imagination. That night, I went to sleep dreaming of pine trees and laughter, allowing my desperate hope to silence the tiny, rational voice in the back of my mind that whispered, "It's all a little too perfect." The hopeful dream shattered the moment Daniel's call came through. The drive had been pleasant, almost normal. Leo waved at us from their car, and I'd allowed myself to believe. Then my phone rang. "Mom, hey, quick question," he said, his voice a tightrope of forced calm. "That bag Chloe gave you, you've got it with you, right?" The chemical smell and the unusual weight of the bag flashed in my mind. "Yes, Daniel, it's right here." A pause, then the words that would change everything. "Mom, you know I'd do anything for you, right? Just be safe crossing the border. They're thorough." That's when I faked the heart attack. While George, pale with worry, was trying to get Daniel and Chloe to stay back, I moved to the rear of our SUV, my heart hammering against my ribs for real this time. "Just need some air," I mumbled, waving them off. With trembling hands, I unzipped the black duffel. Leo's pajamas were neatly folded on top, a stuffed dinosaur beside them. It was a perfect, innocent disguise. I ran my fingers along the bottom of the bag, and I felt it, a subtle stiffness, a seam where there shouldn't have been one. In the corner, the fabric lining was slightly peeled back. I wedged my car key into the gap and pried. The false bottom lifted, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, nestled in foam cutouts, were 5 rectangular vacuum-sealed bricks of compressed white powder. They were cold, hard, and professionally packaged. My breath hitched. This wasn't a desperate mistake. This was an organized crime, and they had chosen me, their loving, trusting mother, to be the mule. The initial shock gave way to an ice-cold clarity. The woman who enabled, who excused, who hoped died on that highway shoulder. In her place was a survivor. My hands, no longer shaking, retrieved my phone. I opened the camera, made sure the timestamp was visible, and took several clear, damning photographs of the bag, the hidden compartment, and its contents. A moment later, George came back to the car. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his face etched with concern. I didn't say a word. I just showed him the screen. I watched his expression shift from fear for my health to disbelief, and then to a silent, hardened fury I had not seen in 50 years of marriage. He reached into the car, took my phone, and turned it off. Then he turned his own off. The connection was severed. We were on our own. The 2-hour drive back to Albany was a silent, heavy thing. George kept a steady hand on the wheel, his jaw set like granite. We didn't need to speak. After 50 years, our anger and our resolve had merged into a single shared thought: it's over. When we pulled into their driveway, Daniel and Chloe were already out of their car, their faces a mixture of confusion and growing panic. I stepped out of our SUV, walked to the back, and retrieved the black duffel bag. It felt heavier now, weighted with the full devastating truth of their betrayal. I placed it on their front doorstep like a grim offering. "Mom, what's going on? Why did we turn around?" Daniel asked, his voice cracking. I looked at him, truly, looked at the 42-year-old man my son had become, and felt a profound, aching distance. He was a stranger. "I know what's in the bag, Daniel," I said, my voice quiet, but carrying in the stillness of the afternoon. The color drained from both their faces. "Mom, listen, I can explain," he stammered, rushing forward. "I got into trouble, okay? I owed money to some very dangerous people, loan sharks. This was the only way out. It was just this one time. It was a pathetic last-ditch attempt to appeal to the mother he had just tried to sacrifice. But that woman was gone." Chloe, seeing the manipulation failing, finally snapped. Her mask of civility shattered, revealing the raw, ugly entitlement beneath. "Don't you dare act so high and mighty," she shrieked, her voice venomous. "None of this would have happened if you'd just paid the damn tuition. This is your fault." And there it was, the truth more damning than the bricks of cocaine in the bag. My value had a price tag, and when I'd refused to pay, they decided to make me pay in a different way. I let her words hang in the air for a moment before I delivered the sentence I had been rehearsing for the entire drive home. "I have time-stamped photographs of the contents of that bag," I said, my voice as cold and steady as steel. "I have already left a message for my lawyer. As of this moment, every form of financial support, the rent, the car insurance, the credit cards, everything is terminated. You are on your own." I turned without another word and walked back to our car. George was already in the driver's seat. As we pulled away, I saw them in the rearview mirror, two desperate figures frozen on their driveway, their entire fabricated world collapsing around them. The weeks that followed were a blur of cold, necessary actions. On my lawyer's advice, we documented everything. I closed joint accounts, removed their names from credit cards, and sent a formal, legally drafted letter confirming the termination of all financial assistance. The desperate calls and texts came first, angry, then pleading, but we never answered. Then my lawyer called with a grim prediction. "Eleanor," he said gently, "people this desperate and this deep in debt don't just give up. They'll try again, and next time, they might take their son with them." He then laid out the hardest choice of my life. I could wait for disaster, or I could ensure my grandson's safety. That evening, with a shaking hand and a heart heavy with a grief I couldn't name, I made an anonymous call to the Border Patrol tip line. I described a vehicle, a potential route, and a couple who might be transporting illegal substances. I didn't give their names. I didn't have to. It was the most terrible and the most loving thing I have ever done. The official call came 10 days later. They'd been arrested at the border just as my lawyer predicted. Child Protective Services was placing Leo in our emergency custody. That afternoon, my grandson arrived at our quiet condo, carrying a small backpack and a world of confusion in his eyes. The chaos of his parents' lives was over. Our home became his sanctuary. There were no more hushed, frantic arguments about money, no more tension about unpaid bills. There was just peace, a predictable rhythm of school homework at the kitchen table, and my husband teaching him how to play chess. About 6 months later, I gave Leo his first piggy bank and a handful of coins. We sat together on the floor, and I showed him how to sort them. "This is for saving," I explained, dropping a quarter through the slot, "and this is for spending. And this one," I said, holding up a dime, "is for giving to someone who needs it." He looked up at me, his expression serious, and nodded. In that quiet moment, I knew I had made the right choice. I hadn't just saved myself, I had given him a chance at a different life, one built on responsibility, not desperation. My son had to lose his freedom to finally face his choices. I had to break my own heart to learn that true love isn't about giving someone everything they want. It's about refusing to enable their destruction. It's a painful lesson, and one I hope no one else has to learn in such a devastating way. If my story resonates with you, if you've ever had to set a difficult boundary to protect yourself or the ones you love, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story matters. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the strength it takes to do the right thing no matter the cost.